friends. We are as usual on the Saturday manufacturing talks, and today is the 11th week. Time passes by so frequently. We started our journey on 13th of March, and today is 22nd of May. So 11th week we are running, and once again on behalf of the Center of Excellence, I would like to welcome all of you in this Saturday manufacturing talk. We have been hearing on different, the concepts of advanced manufacturing technology, digital concepts. How are they helping the manufacturing industries? What are the potentials and all? And today we are going to listen to one of the important, the topics, important technologies, the immersive technologies, I would say, which is the virtual reality and augmented reality. Now, these VR and AR have a significant place in the manufacturing cycle. It is bringing real benefits to businesses at different levels. So one is, the concept on experiencing the real world situation in the virtual domain, which is the virtual reality. And another one is the relaying the digital information onto the physical, the assets, which is the augmented reality. Now, both virtual reality and augmented reality bringing incredible opportunities for product design teams, because now they can accurately shape and test their design before bringing the physical, the material into the process. So as of, if you can properly implement here and here, then you don't need to have any clay models or any other expensive, the technologies. So we think that the AR VR will really, the revolutionize the manufacturing, the industries. But you can think that it can work faster, it can solve your daily, the software problems. You can access the data much the faster, easily. You can cut down the maintenance time. You can reduce the production downtime, and on top of that, you can use it for training. So it has got the immense potential, and let us hear the AR VR, the topic from an expert, which is we are happy to have Suresh Adina with us. Now I'd like to read the brief biosketch of Mr. Adina. Mr. Adina in 1989 graduated from IIT Kharagpur, BTech in Naval Architecture. After KGP, he did his master's from MIT in Ocean Engineering, and he did his another master's in Information Systems from Northeastern University, Boston. Having worked in the US for 8 years, he returned to India in 2000 and settled in Hyderabad, his hometown. He has worked in multiple domains and industries with clients across geographies. He has over 28 years of experience and nearly 34 years in the world of computers. He has grown through the ranks from the software engineer to GM operations, working in smaller organizations and being part of their growth journeys. He has been in the area of AR/VR since 2017, guiding startups in the space in product and business development. Currently, Mr. Adina is the Vice President, Startup Innovation at T-Hub, Hyderabad, an ecosystem for startups, corporates, and other incubators and accelerators. He is passionate about startup and people, the development. He has been a corporate and academic trainer and has been part of 4 startups of his own. He enjoys teaching school and college students. And on the activity side, he is an avid beach player and a tournament director of BFI. So with this brief biosketch, now I request Mr. Adina to share his slide and enlighten us on the VR in manufacturing. Mr. Adina.
Yeah, can you give me the sharing rights, please?
Yes. Proanjan, please give the co-host to Mr. Adina.
Yeah, is sharing visible?
It's, the coming out. If needed, you can, switch off your video at your end.
Yeah, sure.
That may help the situation.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I hope my presentation is visible now.
In just a minute, it is coming up. Just wait a second here, please. Yeah.
Can somebody
is-
confirm if the presentation is visible?
Yeah, it has come. Yeah. You go to the
Okay.
full screen. Yeah.
All right, so good evening, everybody. So today, yeah, so I'll continue. So today we are going to look at this topic of augmented reality and virtual reality in manufacturing, and see how that can actually help the industry or the sector overall. So let's get started. So from the expectation setting perspective, this is basically a very vast subject. Just to understand AR/VR itself will take a good amount of time. Today's session, we are only getting almost like a theoretical introduction to this because AR/VR is very experiential in nature. And so without the help of devices and actually seeing how it works, it's not a very effective session, but given the current circumstances, this is the best way to do. So whatever videos are shown are only for illustration purposes. I don't claim to own any of the videos. They've just been put there to show you how this can work. And the topics that we are going to look at is, start with introduction to what AR and VR are. I assume some of you already know, some of you may not know, so I'll give a brief introduction. Then we look into the manufacturing in terms of what are the key functions and the challenges that are faced in general. I'm not going into specifics. And what are the manufacturing use cases where we look at 2-3 use cases through videos, and then we'll take up some discussion points at the end. And then look at some of the trends that are happening in AR/VR, which may not necessarily be related to manufacturing, but I think somewhere down the line, they will come into the manufacturing setting as well. Okay, so let's get started very simply. In terms of first thing is, is it reality or not? So when you talk about augmented reality, so it's a combination of what's completely around you. Like, for example, if I'm sitting in a room today, so augmented reality will include the room that I am sitting in, and then also it will come up with some digital content. We'll see a video to illustrate how actually that works, right? And the display that are used for AR devices are typically transparent so that the objects, the digital objects, are presented in space in front of you. And then you can actually view through the glass and look at the objects and interact with them. And your space is the only space, the space in which you have to interact with. So you can be in a room, the object will be the same. You go to another place, the object will be the same. And the object will appear to have come into your space. And all the interaction will happen through either gestures or through connected devices. So they can be pointers or mouse-like devices that can be connected to the what we call as the head-mounted devices. So all the AR devices are worn on the heads, including mobile. And it can be invoked as simple as having a QR code. I think today we are all familiar with QR code, which we use from anywhere, purchases to even payments, or even some things as small as drinking coffee. Also, we can pay through QR code and Paytm, right? And some of the common devices that are there. Ideally speaking, this session actually would be very good if I could bring this device and show it to you. Then it would make a lot of sense. But on that, it's slightly difficult. Actually, last year we had planned to do this session at Kharagpur only in sometime in June, July. But due to the lockdown, we couldn't make it happen. Hopefully that will happen in real time in the near future. So Microsoft was one of the pioneers in this, in augmented reality. They have a device called HoloLens. Unfortunately, it's a very expensive device, costs around $8,000. So it has not become very popular. Epson came up with a lower cost, this thing, it's around $1,000 to $1,200, so relatively cheaper. And Epson has actually become the most sought after or most popular device for AR in India. They have set up their assembly unit in India as well. Google Glass was one of the first things to come up, but somehow it never took off. It's supposed to have been very, very forward looking, but it never got the popularity that it should be. We look at Magic Leap a little bit later, and then RealWear is something where it was specifically designed for manufacturing sector, where the device was integrated with a hard hat, because in almost all manufacturing scenarios, people have to wear a hat for the safety. So that has been integrated to this the device. It's very convenient, so we used it and it's very useful. All these devices tend to be cordless, most of them, and they are very lightweight, so that because this is what meant to be very worn when people are actually working, when you're actually doing activities. So they're very portable and they're very lightweight and cordless. And I'm sure all of us have heard this game called Pokemon Go, which was like extremely popular about 5 years ago. I think almost every country in the world got infected by this bug called around with mobiles, trying to find the Pokemon. So now we look at the first example of how this works, right? So you can see, I think there is some latency in the video, but what you are seeing is an actual office room in which on a table, the virtual image of a design of a factory or any installation is kind of projected, and people can actually discuss looking at that. Right? So if 2-3 people, and it is also possible that 2-3 people can be wearing the devices, and then they can all interact with the same object, so that they can see that what is the point being spoken about. Here it is shown as just a video, but you can actually interact with all the objects in it. You can actually take it apart, put it together, etc. We'll see in the subsequent videos how the interactions are possible. Right. So this is the first glimpse into AR. Next, all right. So next one is the other part, which is reality or not, which is the virtual part of it. Here, the content is 100% virtual, which means that you will not see anything that is around you in the physical world. So it's sorry about that. My apologies. Somehow PowerPoint crashed suddenly. Reopening it.
Yeah, don't worry, take your own time.
Yeah, it'll come in just 2 seconds. Yeah, when we actually did the pilot test 2 days ago, it worked fine. Suddenly in the main session. Is it visible again? I hope.
It's coming up.
Yeah. All right. I hope it's visible now. Right?
Yeah.
So here the difference is that the objects are all digital content, as we saw earlier in AR. The object appears to be in front of you in the real space on top of the table, etc. Whereas in virtual reality, it is enclosed. So it is actually the object is rendered inside the head-mounted device, or HMD as we call it. So you'll not be able to correlate with the environment around you. but the experience is highly immersive. You feel like you're actually inside. So the same object that we saw in AR, if you look at it from a VR perspective, you will feel that you're actually inside that design. You're actually inside the room, and you're actually inspecting the pipeline and all the other components as if you're part of the system. Right? Again, here the interaction, because there is no outside world, it's only through the connected device. There are triggers like we do Xbox kind of a trigger these controls. There, and these are all application oriented. So all have to be built as a particular application. Unity is one of the common platforms for building this application. And some of the common Facebook was the first pioneer in that. They came up with something called Oculus Rift, which was a very successful for VR. And then HTC came up with Vive, then Oculus came up with other things called Go. Now the latest model is called Oculus Quest, which they made it actually wireless, and that is actually making, and also brought down the cost to around $2,000, which has made it very, very affordable and also very user friendly. And interestingly, for both AR and VR, we can also use our regular mobiles. Only thing is that they should be able to recognize the movement of the mobile. So then there is something called gyroscope. As long as your mobile has the gyroscopic features, the mobile can be used for either AR or VR applications. And they tend to be very heavy and all tethered, except for the Oculus Quest mentioned, which means they actually need to be connected to a very high-end laptop. And these laptops itself cost like 2 to 2.5 lakhs. They're very heavy to carry around. They have a lot of cables to be connected. So it's not ideal for portable scenarios. It has to be at a fixed location. It's extremely good for a gaming experience. Somebody wants to really try it out for a gaming perspective. There are a lot of good VR games, and you feel like you're actually sitting there and playing. So there are some URLs I will share at the end. You can try it out and see how this gaming looks. You can actually even use, there is something called a cardboard. Simple cardboard device costs around 300 to 400 rupees, and anything less than 1,000 rupees. I think Google also has a cardboard which is around 1,500 rupees. That gives a very good experience by just using a mobile, which you don't need to spend. Right, so this is an example of how VR can work. So this person is actually wearing the VR device with the controllers on his hand, but inside he will feel as if he's actually picked up the guns and actually shooting at some targets. Right? So that's an experience that you feel that when you're looking inside the device, this is how it will appear. Guy is wearing the device, but what inside they will actually see that he will see a target, he will see a real guns. By using the controllers, he can actually pick up the guns and play. This is I'm just giving only brief video glimpses because of limited time. Okay, so now let's come to the manufacturing sector, which is our focus area. So what some of the key functions? I'm just looking at itself is a very vast area. So first thing that anything would do is have to work with a plant design, which will have a lot of engineering drawings, components, larger images, smaller images, etc. And they all tend to be typically 2D in nature. And you have to clearly put in a lot of effort to understand how it works. And it takes a lot of experience to figure out exactly how the design will look like when it is implemented. And when it comes to plant visit, because plants will be in particular location which tend to be remote in the sense of they tend to be typically outside the major cities or closer to a rural setting, and it's very difficult for people to visit. So for that visit to be facilitated through digital or remote access, typically people end up making two-dimensional videos, which are just unidirectional in the sense. So, and then all AR VR can address this. We look at those examples also. So in terms of product design, right? So when products are also they're also done using either CAD or any kind of engineering tools. And again, the objects will be in the engineering world.
Suresh, your voice is getting feeble time to time. So can you place the microphone properly?
Yeah.
Hello?
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
not audible.
Yeah, there's a, your voice is getting, sometimes becoming feeble. So can you place the microphone properly? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm holding it now, so it's better.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's much better. Yeah. Please.
Right.
Please. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So in terms of product design, products like a simple thing like a thing that we use for VR is that how does it look? It's not just about how it looks at an image or a flyer kind of thing that is designed where you can see from front, back, etc. But also how it operates, how the internal things work, how do you open things, how do you put load either clothes or vessels. All these are possible through using this thing. Comes to training, right? Basically, all manufacturing units have a lot of hiring that goes on a regular basis. So we worked with Reddy Labs, which is a pharmaceutical company. And then, so they said that at that time, this was about 5 years ago, they said they hire almost 100 people every month for all their factories put together. And that's a lot of people to be trained on a monthly basis. And there's a huge cost to training. Whereas once you have the AR, VR content, you will see that training cost will come down. The effectiveness of training can also be improved, etc. Then, of course, every plant goes through periodic maintenance where it has to be stopped, and then somebody expert has to come in and then do the maintenance. Sometimes it may not be perfect because there is no guidance to it. It depends on the expert of this thing, and it's not necessarily always sequenced. Unless somebody remembers a perfect sequence or refers to the manuals all the time, it is very difficult. Excuse me. And of course, every plant at some point will go through repair and maintenance work, like something breaks down or some part needs to be replaced over a period of time. It's not that the part has anything, the wear and tear every 1 year, 2 years or something has to be replaced. To be as simple as a filter. How does it get done? Right? It again requires some expert to come in from some different location, maintain that, take care of the activity, and then go back, which is again very very costly for the operations because it has to be shut down for that time. Right, so I will just walk you through a virtual tour of the hub. Let me change my share. Okay, are you able to see the browser window? I hope.
It's coming up, not yet.
Actually, a lot of factories have their own tours that are enabled through AR, VR, and they're very interesting. But due to I wanted to avoid any IP issues, so I'm surely showing a tour of our own facilities. This is T-Hub. This is where I work. Right. So from a VR perspective, normally this photo would be there on the website, and you really can't do much about that. But in a VR kind of an environment, you can actually bring in a lot more content and also kind of a tour that can happen. So first of all, we can have some kind of a audio visual content that can be embedded into that, so that when it plays, I think network is slightly slow. Okay. So this is the audio visual content that can be played. I think network bandwidth may be an issue. Are you able to hear?
We can hear, but your new screen is blank. It's coming up. Yeah, it has come up.
Yeah, it's slowly. Yeah. right? It's just, I mean, I'm not going to go through the entire video. It's a fairly long video. But I just showed the video to illustrate the point that right, basically, I mean, this is just an example to say that when you're giving a tour, you can actually pay any corresponding information that you want to present as an audio or a video. So this is a normal view of the on the website. This is on the web, so there is a web VR, and you can actually manage you basically interact with this environment. So I can see the trees. I want to see the ground. I can see the ground, right? Or I can see now if I want to go around the building, right? Because in a normal environment, video would just take a typical path and go. Here in the VR environment, I can actually interact and choose how I transport myself. So I've just by clicking a button, now I landed up on the reception. Now by clicking another button, I've actually entered the office, right? So in the office also, I can see everything that I want. I can see the meeting rooms. I want to see what is on the roof also. I can see what is on the ground, everything. It's a complete, as if I'm standing in that location and I can get a complete tour of the facility. So we'll take a little quick walk. I won't go too much into it. I'm just showing you how, what are the features possible. So I can navigate myself inside. The hallway itself, I can look at different things. Right now, there is a, just as an example, right? There is a washroom here. So I can actually say, give kind of a textual information what this is. I know it's, washroom need not be explained, but the idea is that in a walkthrough, you can actually explain through text or audio content or video content what you're trying to show. If it's a machinery or if it's a specific office, you can have information about that particular office. Right, so I will now go back. This is just to illustrate how it is. I'll share the link. Anybody wants to have a walkthrough later, you can also go through our entire website and see how this whole thing works. Right, we'll go back to the presentation. So now we look at a couple of videos which actually illustrate how things work in the AR/VR world. Okay, so this is kind of a training video where you can using 3D and AR, you can train people on some machinery. Right, so this is a typical motor. I think everybody in KGP would have gone through electrical courses and seen the motor. Normally, a motor can be explained to a people only after it is stopped, dismantled, and then showed by part. Nobody can see how it's when it's operating. Whereas in a AR/VR world, you can actually show the motor how it works, how different parts work, while it is in a functional mode. You can assemble it, disassemble it. This is very simple interaction that I'm showing, but you can actually pick up a part just like we saw in the VR world. You can use the controls to go pick up a part and inspect it very closely if you like. Right, so this is one example of how it can be used for training. Right, next we look at a different example where a maintenance activity happens with the help of basically so this is the actual setup in front in physical world. So this is what the person wearing the headset would see. Okay, so it's guiding the person to exactly show where the parts are, what to do. It's highlighting what to look for. Right, so the hand is real. Rest of the imagery is virtual to illustrate how it can be done. Okay, so this is what is actually happening. Guys wearing a HoloLens and standing in front of it, and it is giving step-by-step instructions on how to do the maintenance activity. It will guide all the way into revision, and it can actually be done as
Hello, Suresh.
yes, sir.
Yeah, please proceed. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just look at quickly in terms of some areas where AR VR can be applied. Right. So we looked at the training part. So what happens is that it gives a visual. It's not just reading a textbook where we try to understand from the images and the diagrams and tables how it looks like. You can see the actual machine in work while gone, and it can be supplemented with the movements, actual movements happening within that, and it's not a static image. And there is also audio overlay possible, so that there can be specific set of instructions or guidelines or information being shared through the audio. You can also bring in some other images if you want to show something. That overlay is possible, right? Then in terms of this, normally what happens in a training is that at the end of a training, they're given a test. Test means they have to be taken to some other location where there is a similar type of machine, which means that one person at a time can be assessed. And again, it's a cumbersome, laborious, time-consuming job. Whereas in VR, what happens is that the same equipment can be given, and each person who has undergone, let's say there is a batch of 20 that underwent training on the VR world, and each of them can be given one sample to say, hey, please reassemble this or do this maintenance activity. And using AI, which is now very common everywhere, you can actually do an online, immediate, real-time assessment, right? How much time is this person taking it? How effectively is this person doing the activities, right? When they have to, let's say, supposing tighten a bolt, are they tightening it enough or not? Or is it too loose that it may come out? All these kinds of assessments are possible in real time, and they can be duplicated. That's the main thing, is that instead of doing one at a time, batch of 20, all can be assessed independently, and the performance or likely performance can be understood before they're actually put on the shop floor. Next one is that there are a lot of standard operating procedures in manufacturing sector, all the way from basic safety, the attire, the hard hat that they need to wear, the basic safety procedures they need to follow, fire related or any other emergency related. All these are defined as SOPs for it. I mean, we have seen some SOP books which are like about 1,000 to 2,000 pages long, and those all can be digitized. And you need not have 2,000 copies. I mean, if there are 100 people joining every month, you don't need not maintain 100 copies of the manual. What it requires is just one software that you just need to have. If you have 100 devices or 20 devices, can be done in 5 batches of 20 each. All it requires is just to copy the software and the objects, and then the replication becomes very, very easy. The fourth point is that in terms of operations, right? If somebody, so now every company is but they have a plant in Chennai, outside of Chennai. And so there are a lot of things that happen that are very specific to Ford, which because again, somebody has to come in, develop the expertise, and then only take care of operations. What will facilitate is that somebody can actually do a collaborative operation. Can be sitting in. We actually tried it out. Ford has their own Vibrant Ford and other service centers in Hyderabad. So we could actually connect the service centers to their main production unit in Chennai, where people could collaborate through AR and then exchange information, what we have seen earlier in terms of the projection of the object in space. So when they're repairing the car, they can actually see the image of the car engine in the Google, in the glass, and they can actually see the engine in front of them. So sequentially, they can be guided to say that, okay, you need to look for this. Is this right? Is this right? You open this wall, you put it in this thing. So that both the disassembly as well as the reassembly also becomes easy. And it can be a very well guided tool by one expert sitting in Chennai could actually support the entire South Zone, all the 4 service centers. And that's a real game changer for them, because earlier what they said was that if there was a major problem, the guy had to fly from Chennai to Hyderabad. It would take 1 day because he cannot just go to the airport and book a ticket. He would have to plan for next day, fly in, take care of the problem. If sometimes it requires a part to be changed, again, the part has to come in, it'll wait 1 more day. So the overall service time would be like 4 to 5 days, sometimes even a week. Whereas with the online support, what happens is that the service request can be handled only in real time. So within 1 to 2 days, the request can be handled. The customer is happy. The cost to forward is also low because there is no travel involved. And overall service and the ownership of vehicle comes typically. And everybody is happy because the company is happy, the service center is happy, and the customer is also happy. And then in terms of any maintenance problems, as we saw earlier, there's a complex maintenance problem. But there could be a large machine that needs to be maintained. And that's not a simple thing. It takes a few days to do it. Whereas with this kind of AR kind of support, it probably the maintenance time can be cut down at least in half. It not only saves the cost of the maintenance, it also actually reduces the cost of the downtime of the equipment. Otherwise, what happens is if it takes 3 days, for 3 days, the assembly line production capacity is reduced. Which gets done in 1.5 days. The remaining 1.5 days, the production capacity is available to the company. And that's a huge cost to them. And we already saw in terms of virtual shop floor tools across geographies is possible, especially when they have multiple locations. And then we talked about, having support across geographies. Geography, we took the example of Chennai to Hyderabad, but we also work with BMW, Benz Motors in Bangalore, and they have their plant obviously in Germany. So they could actually collaborate across geographies using the platform. I used to write a startup which was started by alumnus of IIT Chennai, IIT Madras, and I used to work with him. And we actually could showcase them that people sitting in in Bangalore could collaborate with somebody sitting in Bangalore. And we did that for multiple use cases, and that was a huge success factor. Of course, BMW is way ahead in terms of VR journey. I'm talking almost 3 years back, so they must be even further ahead now. So some of the benefits is that cost of training for the personnel that are onboarded can be reduced, right? And as I just said, savings in terms of lower production downtime, and that is the biggest factor for a lot of companies, because manufacturing loss of production means that a lot of huge business also, not just number of units produced, but if they're not able to deliver on time, there is an opportunity that could be lost in the future. And then physical training involves a lot of risk, because when they're assembling and disassembling, they're actually working the physical environment, something dropping, something cutting, something catching fire, heat. All these are higher risks. And in a virtual training, there is zero risk because they're all working in a virtual environment. One of the things that could possibly be done is that they could be virtually trained, and when they get certain level of competency, and only a smaller percentage could be put for final round of training in the physical environment, that way reducing significantly the time required to train a person. And of course, real-time maintenance activity can be done across geographies, which we discussed, right? And then without the need for travel, and that's a huge cost. I mean, if you look at the current times where travel has become very cumbersome, if the collaboration can happen in real time across geographies, nothing beats that. Because otherwise, if it is something related to or dependent on travel, the work has to be put on hold. Right now, Hyderabad is locked down. I'm sure most of India is in lockdown, which means nobody can travel. So if somebody needs to come from Chennai to Hyderabad, they have to leave between 6 and 10 a.m. and reach between 6 and 10 a.m., which is very difficult. But now with the help of technology of AR, VR, they can actually sit in Chennai and support everybody that's working in Hyderabad. And the critical thing, the next part, is that in terms of training, not only does it reduce cost, risk, etc., the content gets standardized. So instead of depending on an individual trainer and their expertise or their proficiency in training, right? The content, because it's standardized content, everybody gets the same experience of training. And the outcome is that everybody gets trained to the same level. It's not based on who is training them. Because it's a standardized, digitized content, the expertise in terms of training is with the machine itself. And it can be built to the highest level of expertise that is possible. And we all discussed in all different scenarios the dependency on the expertise. So otherwise, what happens? We had one scenario where somebody who was in the organization, won't mention the name of the organization, it's again an auto company. They said that somebody who has been with the company for 30 years is retiring. And the kind of knowledge that he has, it'll take another 5 years for somebody to even pick that up. And they were wondering how to manage that. So we gave them a solution saying that some of the key expertise areas where he has the knowledge or the expertise that can all be digitized within a span of 6 months to 1 year. That's all it takes. And once it is digitized, it is available now. After 10 years, the digital content can be reused and can be used to train and support a lot of different batches, lot of different people, and not only in that geography, but across India. And this company was also multinational. So they were, I mean, they're Indian brand, but they also work in multiple geographies. And they said it makes our life easier, especially when we send people across to other geographies where the language becomes a problem. They cannot interact. And somebody sitting here can guide them very easily. And then finally, I mentioned already about training and assessment, which is that if you integrate with AI, now also data visualization is becoming very popular. So even if you use any of the data analytical tools, the outcomes can actually be showcased as a visual format in VR. Detail because the today's focus is on manufacturing and the use cases. But there are a lot of videos that you can go and see that how a VR device. If you're just looking through the browser, it will not be as effective. So if possible, if it's real enthusiasts of VR can actually go and buy what we call as a cardboard, Google Cardboard or different cardboards are there, which range anywhere from 500 to 2,000 rupees. And you can use your mobile. It's a very good experience that you will get. I think they should be available in Amazon and other websites. If you're really interested, that's something I would really recommend for you to do it. You can actually also watch the 3D video, 3D films. I don't know how many of you remember seeing the movie Avatar, right? So that's kind of a VR experience because you're wearing the glasses. You're transported in that. You feel like you're actually in the forest, on the mountain, etc., rather than seeing that, okay, somebody else is standing on the mountain or somebody is in the forest. When you get into a movie like Avatar, it's a real-time experience that can be brought into it. And in manufacturing, I think that has a lot and lots of applications. I think it's just beginning of it. So some of the points I wanted to discuss towards the end thing is that the applications are wide ranging. I only talked about 5 to 6 use cases. Now the next level of interaction that people are looking at is right now it's only the audio and visual that are transferred. Next level they're looking at is transfer of touch and feel. Basically the physics can be transferred. So if somebody is touching a material which is elastic in nature, somebody here can see the elasticity being touched. So as I said, Benz Motors were actually working with saying that when they repair an engine, there are a lot of components that are made with rubber, right? So rubber is not fixed shape. It depends on how it is connected to the next point. That shape changes. So that also can be brought into it. That makes the experience much deeper. Of course, the convenience is there in terms of location independence. Now it comes to the adaptation in India specifically when I'm talking about. The head-mounted devices are very expensive. And all the VR devices, as I mentioned, except for the Oculus Quest, are all car tethered, which means they have to be connected to a laptop and which means they have to be staying in one location. That makes it very difficult to use. Quest may be the best option, but that also costs around $2,000. And the battery life is still not at the optimum level battery usually runs out between 45 minutes to 1 hour, which means that every 1 hour you have to replace the battery or recharge it, which is difficult for industrial level applications. I think some people are working on improving the battery life, but it's still working. One of the interesting things I found when I was working is that, as I said, we work with some of the auto manufacturing companies. And when we went and pitched this kind of solutions, we say that, hey, automated, you will get a good support in terms of your maintenance activities. The people who are not so literate, they're always worried about job loss. Job loss and also monitoring. They are thinking that, okay, if I wear this device and do my work, right, my boss gets to see everything I do, which means that without actually being on the floor, they can monitor me continuously. And if I do something wrong, that will be held against me. In a physical world, if they drop a nut, right, they can just pick up the nut and put it back. In a digital world, the dropping of the nut is also captured. And the other thing is that they say that, okay, if this becomes very popular and it becomes very time saving, I may end up losing my job because this can do the job probably better, slightly better than I do, or a lot better than I do. And hence there is a reluctance to take it up and say that, okay, I mean, this is really useful for me. Reality is that it is useful for them, but the fears that they have inherently with them, they're reluctant to use it. There are some people who will take it up, champion it. Every company has a champion, but every company has probably multiple numbers of detractors who say, hey, no, we really don't want this technology. This technology does not help us. Whereas most of the European companies and a lot of American companies are way deep into this. I mean, healthcare, this is manufacturing, so I've not gone into it. Healthcare has adapted this in a major way in US, including performing surgeries, training on surgeries, without the need for a dead body to be there to be understood what is the physiology of inside. Right, so that becomes. And then in India, the major critical factor is that internet connectivity. All the AR/VR requires some level of connectivity for the internet, the multi-location interactivity. Bandwidth generally is available, but inside a shop floor setting where there's a lot of metal, right, the connectivity and the signals become very weak, and the connectivity keeps breaking. So that is a major bottleneck. Even when we work with Ford also. Ford also has the highest technology, but their connectivity in the shop floor is very difficult. Not their fault, but it is there. And they also have some issues in terms of talking about protecting their IP. They don't want their images to be transferred over the internet, which I found very interesting, saying that it's not nobody else is seeing it, only the person on this side and the other person is seeing it. But they were very fearful, saying that no, we do not want it to be seen. I do not know the reasons for it, but we have to live with that, and we have to find alternate solutions to make that happen. The last part is in terms of technology adoption is that how comfortable are people with it? Right? VR can be quite an intense experience the first time. When you wear a HMD like an Oculus Rift first time and put on and start seeing things, it can be very disturbing because things are very, very close to you. And you start feeling like you can actually, I mean, VR, one example is that you can see a machine opening up, like we saw a motor opening up. It suddenly looks like that motor is coming towards you, which it's not really, but the digital image is coming to you. You feel like that's going to come and hit you. So people shake. After that, I've seen some people when we went to a show in Bombay, people wore the device for a ship exhibition, and people actually got shook up and sat down because they just lost their balance. So that takes a little bit time, but once they get used to it after 2-3 minutes, they're very comfortable. They're safe. And it requires a certain skill in being able to operate the controls. And that's not very intuitive because you can't see anything. You have to use your fingers. People who are used to gaming can adapt to it very well, but people who are not used to gaming may have a slight difficulty in adapting. So that's the end of my presentation. The rest of it is just I put some slides. There's some very cool stuff that's coming in. This is an image. I put the URL. I'll share the URL later. Videos are each 2-3 minutes long, so it'll take a long time to play the videos. I'm not playing them. This actually helps these two people sitting in front of her. They're actually sitting across multiple geographies and talking to each other. And this is where you can actually interact within your own environment. You can draw. There is a very interesting tool called VR Draw, which means you can actually create a complete visual, flowers, etc. in 3D, save it, and send it to somebody, and they can interact with that same object. Right? This is a game you can play, you can wear, and as gaming is something that's going to be huge. I think that's where the larger, we actually did an exhibition in Delhi 2 years ago. And it was a huge hit. People were queuing up to play the game. And they used to keep coming back saying, I want to play again. So the experience is very different. This is kind of, the HoloLens experience. Here, not only one person, but multiple people are interacting with an object. Right? They're both seeing the same image of the Earth. And they can actually relate to what each other person is talking about. It's kind of a integrated multiplayer application that becomes very powerful. Right, and this is something that's very interesting, that is called Project North Star, that has come up, which is that you can actually have a sensor connected to the laptop that can detect your hand, and your hand becomes like a keypad. You can start typing on your hand. You don't need a digital keypad. So the ABC you say there are virtual, and once you press that, the link will be there. You can see the video, and that's it from my side. Finished just on time, 9:20 as planned. Thank you. Now, next 10 minutes, I'm happy to discuss, take questions from anybody.
Yeah, you have finished.
I'll stop the
exactly.
sharing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
so
I'll turn on my
Shreyas-
video now, so people can see.
Yeah, you can switch on your video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
good.
I mean, I apologize. This is my lockdown look. Just being lazy to shave while at home. That's all.
No, it's absolutely fine, Suresh. So, Suresh, you have given a very informative, the description about AR/VR and its various aspects in different fields and all. So, out of